Today is August 10th, 2013 at 10:10 a.m. and I'm sitting with Mrs. Bonnie Clifton. So yeah, thank you for coming in again.
You're welcome.
And if you don't mind starting with your parents' arrival here.
Okay. My mother and her mother homesteaded in the Great Divide area in 1917.
Okay.
And my father's parents came in 1918. And, of course, they met in the Great Divide area and married and lived out there. They moved into Craig. I was born in Craig. My mother rented a house, or my aunt rented a house for her to have me in for a month and to buy groceries. And then she went back to the homestead. And then when my brother Darwin, who is 2 years older than I, started school, we moved into the Craig area, and my dad went to work for Stanton Trucking Company.
Okay.
And we lived in the area now where the new hospital is.
Oh.
And then eventually moved in on Ranney Street. And we all went to grade school in the grade school here on Yampa Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1950, when I graduated, we were the first class to graduate from the high school on Yampa Avenue going north. We put on the first prom there.
Right.
It is now a middle school and has been added on and added on and added on.
Right.
So it's not the same school that I graduated from. Or my kids graduated from the same one. They started redoing it after they were out.
I see. And you said your class put on the first prom ever?
Yeah, our class, our junior class, always had to decorate for the prom.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were the first ones to put that on there.
Awesome.
And in the gym. And I can remember that the young men in our class saved the great big tumbleweeds. And our theme was blue and white. And they took the tumbleweeds and hung them from the ceiling in the gymnasium and sprayed them white.
Oh, wow.
It was artificial clouds, you know.
Yeah.
It was very pretty, very pretty.
That's so neat.
Yeah.
If you don't mind speaking a little bit more about school and what that was like for you.
School was great. I walked from my house, which was right downtown Craig, to the school, and every day, and back for lunch. We never had any school lunches then. We had great teachers, good class. There was only 42 that graduated in our graduating class in 1950. And so there weren't too many people in Craig. I believe the population of Craig at that time was about 4,000 people. The county was larger, but not the city of Craig.
And what would you do for recreation as a child growing up here in Craig?
Growing up, we didn't do really anything but just play.
Okay.
We were good families. I mean, families were families. And it was family fun that we did or whatever. I became a high school cheerleader, so I got to go and do different things like that to different towns and things.
Right.
I was in the band, played clarinet in the band for 4 years. Went on to the University of Wyoming on a band scholarship.
Wow. And
went to the first bowl game that the University of Wyoming ever had was in Jacksonville, Florida in 1951, and I got to go to that.
Wow.
And my brother Darwin played the football game.
Oh my goodness. At the same university?
Yeah, at the same university. He was in Jacksonville at the same time playing that day. They played Washington and Lee.
Oh my goodness.
University of Wyoming beat them.
Wow.
So it was just band, cheerleading, girlfriends, we just didn't do anything. We just played and were friends and things like that.
That's incredible.
I always had a job in the summertime to mow lawns for the little old neighbor lady. And she was crippled, and I would walk her across the vacant lot. She'd lean on my arm and to the beauty shop across the street here in main town, and then back home.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's see. see. So after high school, you went to University of Wyoming. Did you finish out there, or did
No,
you...
I only went to 1 year.
Okay.
And came home and married him anyway.
And you had met in high school?
In high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he stayed, I worked in Sixway right across the street here that year I was gone.
Okay.
And came home in May, and we were married July 1st.
Oh.
Been married 62 years.
Wow. Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
quite a feet.
Married in the Christian church over here.
Where the Center of
Oh,
Craig
yeah,
is
we
now?
always went to the Christian church.
Okay.
Yeah, my mother was big in the ladies' mite society.
Mhm.
And Sunday school, I played the piano for Sunday school, taught Sunday school class and things like that in that church.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, and so you had children. So
We had 5 children. They were all born here in Craig.
Okay.
52, 54, 57, and twins in 59.
Oh, wow. So what was it like raising a family here in Craig?
Busy.
Busy.
And you know, I look back on it now, and because there were 5 kids in 7 years, I don't remember any real bad times.
Okay.
You did what you had to do. You fed them what you had to feed them.
Right.
My mother had a farm out here, and she used to bring in cow's milk to me and cottage cheese, and they raised chickens and stuff. You know, couldn't have raised them without it because we didn't make that kind of money. But when the twins were 5, I went to work as a school secretary at East School.
Okay.
And worked there for 16 years.
Wow.
And we opened right downtown here, we had a restaurant that we opened up. It was an Italian restaurant. It was called the, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it now. But we had that and sold it.
Okay.
And went into the, out west of Craig, and opened what we called the Backdoor Restaurant.
Okay.
And had that for years, built a house across the street from it.
Wow.
And then we went into the furniture business and had that showcase furniture down on 4th Street. And throughout the years, we've just done a little bit of everything. Don was in the Ford garage and part owner of it at one time. We were part owners of the furniture store and different restaurants. And then he became county commissioner.
Oh, okay.
And in 87, we moved to Denver.
Okay.
And he went to work for the governor.
Wow.
In property taxation.
Okay.
It was called the Board of Appeals. And he went to work there. That's why we moved to the Eastern Slope. And by that time, all of our children were over on the Eastern Slope, too. So it was a good reason to go and to stay there.
Right. And is that where you currently are?
Yeah, we live in Loveland.
Okay. And you've been there ever since age 7? Okay. So just to rewind a little bit, working at East Elementary, you were there for 16 years, you said,
16
as school
years,
secretary?
as school secretary.
And do you know what the years were for that?
I went to work there in, let's see, they were born in 59, but 64 to 70-something.
Or to 80? 16 years? 1980? Does that sound right?
Must have been, yeah.
Something like that. Okay, so you were there for quite a bit. What was it like working there, and how did you...
It was great. The principal was principal of the middle school and of East School. Oh. And so he was gone half the time, so I checked the kids in, I checked them out, I talked to the parents. Wow. It was about the time that Title I and Title II money came into existence.
Oh, I see.
And they were giving the schools money to buy books for the library and audiovisual. And so that was all dumped on me to learn to take the TV to the classroom for the teacher and set it up for her to do those kind of things.
Wow.
And we didn't have a library there, so we set it up in the hallway.
Oh, wow.
On metal stands in the hallway, and I would check them out to the kids.
Wow.
So I was basically kind of half principal most of the time.
Okay.
Because he was there and there. I never had any decisions to make, but he wasn't there, so I took care of it.
So you had a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah. We had a fire at one time and burned my library books. The janitor had been cleaning some mops, and the the mop room was right across the hall from my library books, and he had taken and put it in gasoline, taken it out and put it in the field all day long, but when school was out, he brought it back in and put water on it,
Oh, dear.
and it blew it over to the hot water heater, so it set the school on fire.
Wow.
And it did quite a bit of damage. We were not in school for about a week, but everybody came in, we cleaned everything up.
But no one was hurt or...
No,
Okay,
no,
good.
it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, okay.
Everybody was gone.
Right.
But the insurance company paid me to make sure that everything got done, too. So I was a jack of all trades.
Yeah. That's
and a master of
amazing.
none.
I'm sure you mastered quite a bit. Can you speak at all to any changes you saw in the school as far as maybe children or just the financial responsibilities or, I don't know, anything?
We didn't have hardly any poverty children at the time.
Okay.
There were maybe 6 or 8 a year. That came, into the 80s. We got into the late 70s, into 80s is when we started getting more and more of that and more federal assistance and state assistance for those children. But nobody ever knew who they were or anything. It was all very, very discreet. Everybody ate in the lunchroom that wanted to have hot lunch. They did. The other kids, the ones that got it free, nobody knew. It was very good. We had real good teachers, great teachers. It was kindergarten through 5th to start with them. They pared us down. We were kindergarten through 3rd.
Okay.
And I'm still, one of the teachers is here, I'm still friends with.
Oh.
And another one in Arizona I'm still friends with.
That's fantastic.
But the school system has changed a lot. There's a lot more freedom for children.
Okay.
As far as truancy is concerned, I think.
Okay.
And in nowadays, you can't touch a child. In those days, if the teacher had trouble with somebody on the playground or in the classroom, she brought him to the principal's office, and he would sit them down and talk to them and tell them, why you're here, what you did. Okay, that's 2 swats. And I had to witness it. We had to sign. And he called the parents and told them.
Right.
You don't do that now. That's what I see a change in the school, and I'm not sure that that's for the better.
Okay.
My opinion.
Yeah.
I think children need to be disciplined, and they're not. I have great-grandkids. I can tell you for sure they're not disciplined anymore.
Right.
Like we were disciplined, and I think their values in life will be changing because of that. They don't know the value of a dime. If you go to McDonald's, they want the biggest thing on the menu.
Right.
Not what they can eat, because they'll leave half of it. Because they don't understand the value of money. The kids that I had in school, and my kids grew up, they knew what it was to make a dime. They knew what it was to spend a dime. And I see that for the worse nowadays.
Yeah.
And I really feel, of course, that's the old part of me coming out. The visual things that they have nowadays, my great-grandkids sit for 4 hours and play games and shoot guns and stuff like that with the video things.
Right.
To me, that's not good, but that's my opinion again. My opinion. That's where I think schools are changing. I think teachers have a lot more flexibility now.
Okay.
I know the one great-grandson, they have a late start, 11 o'clock instead of 8:30, because the teachers have to get there and have a meeting.
Oh, okay.
Well, the teachers did that when I was in school, after school, or before school. But now they get time to do that.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's a change.
It's a change, yeah. I can completely relate. I'm actually credentialed in California to be a teacher, and I went through student teaching, and everything you're saying is kind of echoing the experiences that I've had.
It
And there are definitely a lot of people here from Craig that echo those same sentiments. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just the change in time. It's hard because now teachers have to compete with, that technology you were talking about.
Oh,
you
yeah,
have
absolutely.
Their kids are going to get bored in the classroom unless you can speak to them in a way that,
My 4-year-old great-grandson does everything on their cell phone or anything.
Right.
And I see where the teachers are in a bind. They really are, because they have to teach them to do this technology, or they're not going to be able to function in our world today.
Right.
It's a totally different world. My mother used to say to me, I'm so glad I raised you when I did. I don't know what she'd say today.
I don't know.
Really, with all the change from her generation, even to my generation, and to now to my grandkids.
Yeah.
It's a changing world, and that's the way life is.
Right.
If you don't grow and grow with it, then who are you?
Right.
I mean, you stay back.
Yeah. So. Thank you for sharing that, because that really speaks to me.
Yeah.
So during that time, it seems like you were working at the school when the boom happened with the power plant coming in. Do you remember
the power plant came in about that time, because, yes, they did. They did during the boom. And the furniture store, we opened that really went well.
Really?
Yeah, with the people coming in and everything, yeah.
Oh, so that was open when people were, the influx of people came in.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what happened to your business?
We just closed it up.
Okay.
We had partners. Donna and Joe Russo were our partners, and they stayed in Craig, but they since have moved to Steamboat. But we just sold it out, and Don went to work for the governor in Denver. That's when we moved.
Okay. Can you speak a little bit about the restaurants you had, the Italian place?
Okay, the Italian restaurant, yes. It was called the El Palazzo.
El Palazzo,
it was had been a restaurant before.
Oh, okay.
It was right down by the drugstore, the Craig drugstore. I don't know if the Craig drugstore is there anymore. It was real close to the Golden Cavy down this road. Okay, it was in between there. And it was a restaurant at one time, and it had been closed up for a long time, and we bought it. And it took us about 3 months, and we remodeled it inside ourselves, doing all the work, paneling and stuff like that, and went to Denver and bought used kitchen furniture, and we had the first pizza place that Craig ever had.
Oh, okay.
It was at the El Palazzo.
Yeah.
We hired an older gentleman, John Nicoletto, as our chef, and he came from Pennsylvania. His brother was the chef at the Cosgriff Hotel, and he came here to work for him, where I worked at the Cosgriff Hotel when I was growing up as a waitress. But he went to work for us. He walked in our back door the day before we opened and said, I understand you need a cook. And Don said, yes, I do. And he was our Italian cook, but he wouldn't do pizza, because pizza wasn't Italian to him.
Okay.
So we had a pizza oven, and Don would go every morning. He worked at the Ford Garage. He'd go every morning and make the dough, and then we hired someone to make the pizza during the daytime.
Right.
And Don would come to the restaurant at noon and help me through lunch. But I was the hostess and the bookkeeper and all of that for our restaurant. We opened it in May, and we sold it to an Italian in October.
Okay.
And got out of it.
I see.
And our 3 kids that were still in high school were waiters and waitresses for us. And then our friends Bob and Barbara Baker, you interviewed them. Yeah. They went together with us, and we opened the back door in their building.
Okay. And then what was that like?
That was fine dining at night. We opened it around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We didn't have a bar, just a little service bar. We could seat 69 people. We took it with the person that had it has a taxidermy upstairs, and they lived downstairs. Well, Bob and Barbara put their business up there. He was an engineer, and we put the restaurant downstairs. So we changed a little bit of the walls and things, but not much. We had to build on a place to put the walk-in freezer in and cooler. Yeah. And we built on the little thing in the back where people sat to wait. But we ran that, and Don worked the Ford Garage, was county commissioner. Barbara was county clerk. Bob had his business. And I was helping my son in the mall with his business, selling advertisements for his business. So we were all busy during the daytime, but it was fine dining at night.
That's sweet.
It was called the Back Door.
The Back Door. That's awesome. We haven't heard about that too much, so that's good that you're able to provide that. Where was I going to go? Oh, you mentioned you were a waitress at the Cosgriff when you were younger. Do you mind talking about the Cosgriff a little bit?
Well, the Cosgriff Hotel was run by Mr. and Mrs. Gentry at the time. And Mr. Gentry really took a liking to me. I lived just right down half a block from the hotel. Went to work as a waitress there when I was a senior in high school. and worked junior in high school, I guess it was, I'm sorry, and then worked through my senior year too.
Okay.
And he said to me one day, "You're going to go to college." And I said, "No, I don't have any money to go to college." And he said, "I'm going to get the money for you. You're going to college." So I went on the band scholarship, but then I had to have other money, no place to live or stuff like that. My schooling was free, but not where to live and stuff. And my folks didn't have any money. So he got the business and professional women in Craig to loan me $300 a quarter, and I went to college for 2 quarters.
Wow.
And I paid it back.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love hearing those stories where, people help each other in this community. It's just it's a family in this community. Yeah. Oh. Thank you for sharing that. So that's how you're able to go to school then?
Yeah. I only went to 1 year and then came back and married Don anyway.
But still, even having that experience is priceless. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
What was, if you don't mind going into it a little bit more, what was it like to work at the Cosgriff?
Oh, it was great. I worked the morning shift, 6 to 2.
Oh, wow.
And Nick Nicoletto was the chef.
Right.
And Gussie James, a lady, was the fry cook.
Okay. And
she could remember orders. She'd take orders from 3 or 4 of us at a time and never forget a one and got them all right. Rose Hoff worked the counter. I worked on the tables, and another lady worked the tables. But we had a good clientele that would come every morning for breakfast.
Wow.
We got paid $1 a day.
Okay.
And then our tips were our own. We didn't share tips in those days. We had to make the coffee in the back, and we had to do our own toast, fix our own toast. It wasn't done for us. And we had to boil the boiled eggs and that. We had to do those ourselves. The fry cook did the fried eggs, but we had to do our own soft-boiled eggs and stuff. And in those days, a lot of people ate soft-boiled eggs.
I see. Okay.
And the cereal and stuff like that. And then we worked through the lunch hour. And the sandwich girl was in one place and did the sandwiches, and the rest was with the chef.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so neat. Do you remember any specific characters or stories that you'd like to share?
The bartender was Hank Knippel. And he would come in every day about 2 o'clock and come to the kitchen and get his coffee. He had his box under his arm. His wife was the bookkeeper for Gentry's. Okay. And they lived in the back there. Oh. The Gentrys lived in the back in those little houses in the back of the Cosgriff. They lived there all the time. And they only had one daughter. She married Monger.
Oh.
Jim Monger.
Okay.
And he took over the Cosgriff after the Gentrys died. But characters. Yeah, there was characters used to come into and sit at the counter and look at the pie thing and say, "I want that piece of pie," or "I want that piece of pie," and just a few characters like that.
Yeah.
Nothing real big that stands out in my mind.
Okay.
We were all young married people with kids that worked there, except Gussie, she was older. Nick's kids were about my kids' age and stuff like that. So, but I worked there after we got married too. I made enough in tips to pay a babysitter to stay home and take care of my 2 kids while I could still work there. When I came back and we got married and everything, that's where I went to work again. Okay. I was at the Cosgriff as a waitress.
Awesome. Let's see here. What would you do for recreation with your family, the family you were raising here in Paris?
There wasn't really that much to do. Oh, the big thing was we'd go to the A&W root beer stand and get a quart of root beer and a quart of soft ice cream and take it home and make root beer floats. Oh. And our kids still remember that.
Oh, that's here in town?
Yeah.
Where was the stand at? Or?
It was right close to where the Craig Ford is now, in that area, right in there. I think, I can't remember. It was on the corner on the highway going out there. But that was a big deal.
Yeah.
A big deal. Or we would take a ride out east of Craig and by the Rock County line and see the deer all on the edge of the field there. The kids would just love to see all those deer. My folks had a farm north of Craig. We'd go out there, and in the wintertime, we would take sleds and sled down the hill. We had a toboggan, and we'd get 4 or 5 of us on a toboggan and toboggan down the hill, my dad's field.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Would your family go hunting or fishing or anything like that?
My dad was always a fisherman, and when we were little, we'd always go fishing up at the elk head and places like that. And then Don has hunted elk for deer for years and took the boys with him to hunting camp. We used to have his brother and some of them come from New Mexico and some from California. Wow. And we'd all converge and then go to, they'd set up a big hunting camp together.
Right.
Oh, Don killed probably, had it not been for wild meat, we wouldn't have had much meat to feed our kids.
Right.
And there was one, I'll tell you a little story. When he worked for Coors Beer Company, delivering beer, there was a couple of guys down there that he knew, and Jim Avgaris was one of them. And they had a ranch out toward Meeker. And so the 4 of them would go out after dark to his folks' place and with the spotlight shoot 1 deer, bring it back to somebody's house, cut it up. Each one of us would take a quarter and feed our family on it for 2 weeks.
Wow.
The 4 of them would go hunting again. Again, it was all illegal. After dark, it was on private land, but it was illegal. But we couldn't have raised our family had we not had that wild meat.
Right.
It's hard for me to eat wild meat today. My kids still love it, and Don likes it, but it's hard for me to because I had to cook it and eat it. And they did. Right. But and my mother bring chickens to us from the ranch and eggs. She had a lot of customers in Craigburg she would deliver eggs to, sell them to them. You can't do that anymore either. Right. And my dad raised cows, and we had some little bit of beef. One year they had, at turkey time, Thanksgiving, they had contests where you could sign up and stores would give away a turkey, a live turkey. Well, I won one at the drugstore. So I took it out to my folks' ranch, put it with their turkeys, and that next year Don and I raised enough little turkeys to buy Christmas for our kids. So it was tough raising them, but nothing that was real bad. You did what you had to do because you had to do it, you know. Right. You did it.
Yeah.
I got these kids, I got to take care of them, I got to feed them, I got to raise them. And I've got 5 wonderful kids. Oh, great. Yeah. They all grew up to be in business, successful, loving, all that. Yeah. So it was worth it.
Would you attribute any of that to the fact that you raised them here in Craig?
Oh, absolutely. Small town. Yeah. Small town. And they tell me now that they could have gotten into drugs in those days. There wasn't much. It was like marijuana.
Okay.
They could have the kids would go down to the river and hang out and get drunk and stuff like that. They could have done all of that. And not that they weren't angels, that they didn't do some of it. I found out later. But they didn't do it to excess because they knew it would hurt us. They were respectful enough to know that they couldn't do things like that and still be loved like we loved them. So they never got into it, thank God. Yeah. One time, Cole was born in 57, the twins in 59, so we had the 3 of them at home at one time, at the last. And the girls went to a girl's friend here on Russell Street for a party. And outdoor party, right in the house there. And so Cole came home first, and I said, "Where are the twins?" And he said, "Oh, they're at the party." And I said, "You go get them. You go get them and get them home." It was 9 o'clock at night. So he went and got them, brought them home. And they said, "Well, is Mom mad? Is Mom mad?" And he said, "No, Mom's not mad. She just sent me after you." I was standing in the front window like this. They said, "You lied to us. Mom is mad." But they swear up and down to this day, and one of the girls that was with them, that they never partied. The other kids did, but they just had a good time being there. Right. You know, and I don't think they did, but who knows? Who knows?
So
I didn't raise angels.
I think it's difficult too.
But it was easier raising kids in a small town in those days.
Right.
In the 50s and the 60s, much easier than it is today.
Right. I'm sure you can definitely speak to that because you've seen your grandchildren.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Craig now, because I read the internet, Craig paper every day, there's a lot of drugs in Craig. And it's not just marijuana. It's methamphetamine and all of that kind of stuff that's here now. And in fact, I have one grandson that is a jailer at Jefferson County Jail in Golden.
Right.
And he was taking a lady to a hospital one day, one of the inmates to a hospital, and she said, I can hardly wait to get out. I'm going to Craig because, boy, you can go out there in the field and get that stuff and make anything you want.
Oh, my goodness.
And that was 15 years ago.
Wow.
So, and he was born in Craig. So he related to where she knew what she was where she talked about when she was coming.
Wow.
But it was more remote than it is now, area to be in those days.
Right. So you live in Loveland, and you still come back here to Craig?
We come back about once a year to see Bob and Barbara and see my brother up in Bags. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be 81 this month.
No.
Yeah, and I do the driving. Don's had both knees and both hips replaced, so he can't drive anymore.
Yeah. Well, you definitely don't look it. That's one of the things we notice here, that people seem to age well if they're from Craig or in this area. So hopefully we can age that way.
I've had my problems too. I've had my hip problems. I have 2 artificial hips, and I had colon cancer and
my goodness.
Different things. But I'm healthy now. In fact, my doctor said you'll probably live to be 95, and I said, God help my kids if I do.
And you obviously still keep up with Craig. You just said you read the news every day.
I read online every day.
Yeah. So what's it like returning to Craig, and how has it changed?
It brings back a lot of memories, and yet it's not the same as when I was here. Everything is different. The stores are all different, and that kind of stuff, the windows and things. But it's still hometown. I could come back here. I could come back and live. My kids say they can't.
Okay.
But I always could. I was here longer than they were, too. They were only here through their high school years.
Right.
I was here through married life.
Yeah.
And my folks, being homesteading here and everything, makes it more like home to me. So I could come back and live here.
Yeah.
They say, well, you're not going to. But Craig is home.
Yeah.
Craig's home.
Awesome. Yep. Are there any other stories or things you'd like recorded?
Well, there's a book upstairs for sale.
Okay.
This past winter, the lady here from the museum called me and wanted to know if it would be all right if this lady from California called me, and I said absolutely. In August of 1952, there were 2 prisoners that broke out of the Soledad prison in Salinas, California.
Right.
And they got out, and they were out for about a week or so, and everybody, the whole United States was looking for these 2 guys.
Huh.
And especially, they thought they might come this direction. Well, they were out for a while, and then they went to a farmhouse there in California, an older man and woman, and got food and bathed up and washed their clothes and stuff, and stole their car. And when they left, they said, don't call the police for 2 hours, or we'll come back and kill you. Well, they didn't call the police for 2 hours, but when they did, they told them what their car was like. So they knew what car these guys were driving. And they went straight through California, through Utah, got to Elk Springs right out here at the other side of Maybelle, ran out of gas, stopped there, was a filling station and a house, that was all. Got gas, didn't have any money to pay for the gas, so they hit the guy in the head and take off toward Maybelle and Craig. And he got up and called the sheriff from Craig and said, these 2 guys, well, they knew who they were then, the car and description and everything. Wyoming was looking for them, Meeker was looking for him, Hayden was looking for him, Steamboat was looking for him, and then Craig. Well, they were smart enough to know that if I go into Craig, they're probably going to catch us. So they took the road on the other side of Maybelle, which goes down through Browns Park and comes out at Rock Springs, Wyoming. Took I-80 up to Rollins, and John Terrell was the sheriff up there at the time, and he said, if they come into my territory, I'm going to get them. He got them.
Wow.
And he brought them back to the Craig jail. And because they hit this guy in Elk Springs, then he got them for that. Besides, they were on the run.
Right.
Well, they were in the jail there. George Krieger was the sheriff, and the jailer. And his family lived right in the bottom of the courthouse, right there. Well, they talked this one little 12-year-old boy that was in jail at the time. They talked him into faking one morning, January of '53, faking that he was sick. And he was laying down, and George Krieger, the sheriff, opens his cell and goes in, and they all rush the sheriff and knock him down. And the two of them took 3 others with them. 5 of them left the jail, 7:30 in the morning. And it was January 4th, I think, 1953. We surmise what they did was took the alley straight down from the back of the courthouse, straight up to the Sand Rocks. Spent the day in the sagebrush up there. And Don worked for Coors at the time.
Okay.
And he got back from his route. Well, his mother and Steamboat had heard this on the radio. These 2 guys that were loose out of the courthouse in Craig, go get your sister who lives in Craig with her 2 little kids and take them to your house where they'll be safe. So he did. So in those days, you never took the keys out of your car. You never locked your doors or nothing. And where we lived was on a hill across from where the middle school is now. We lived up on that hill. And it was a dirt driveway, alleyway, and you parked your car right in back in the dirt, right beside the house.
Right.
Here was the kitchen. There was a kitchen window right up there, high. And Don pulls up with his sister and the kids, come in. We had supper. He goes in and sits down in the chair in the front room, and he said, Bonnie, go out and get the keys out of the car. The desperados are liable to steal it. Well, I opened the door, and no car. And I said, Don, where'd you park the car? There's no car out there. And he said, oh, Bonnie, don't give me that. Go out and get the keys out of the car. I went out again. I walked out that time. It was still gone. So he came out then and looked. We called the sheriff right away. They caught him in Baggs, Wyoming.
With your car?
With our car. 5 of them in a 2-door car that smelled like sagebrush because they'd been in the sagebrush all day long. But I know they walked up that alley because we were living close to the Sand Rocks. Walked up that alley. They looked in that window and saw us with these little kids and didn't come in.
Oh, my gosh.
They pushed the car back down the alley and then started it so we wouldn't hear them.
Oh, my goodness.
And so the lady from California that called me, her father was one of the guards on duty that night they broke out. And she now is a law enforcement lady, too. She wrote the story about that and wanted the museum here to sell the book. Well, the museum told her you got a few things wrong, and then when she called me, I said, well, you got a few things wrong. So I emailed them to her, and she rewrote that chapter of the book and sent us another copy of it. Wow. It's for sale upstairs.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think Jan showed it to us. But
that was our car.
Oh, my goodness. So you didn't have children at that time, right?
I had
Or did you?
Yes, I had, Tina was 18 months old,
Okay.
and I was 6 months pregnant with my second one.
Okay.
And Don's sister had a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old.
Well, thank God the kids
And
were
he
there because I
took
can't
them to our
imagine.
house to be
Yeah.
safe.
My
It's always been a
goodness.
big joke. Take them to your house so you'll be safe, and that's where they stole the car.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible.
So that's been kind of fun this year, with talking with her and getting the book.
Oh, that was just this year that all this, the conversation in the book and...
No, the lady from California.
Right,
It's been fun talking to her
That's awesome.
about the book and everything, and her calling us and talking to us and stuff about it.
Right.
And I got a copy for every one of my kids.
Oh.
They, of course, none of them would remember it, but it's nice for them to have.
Wow. So did you know about all this stuff going on before the incident happened where they took your car? Or was it...
Oh, yeah, it was on the radio all
Okay.
day. There was no TV or anything, but the radio, everybody was saying, lock your doors, don't
Right.
leave your keys in the car. These guys are out, and we don't know where they are.
Right.
Everybody was looking for them. They were hiding out at the Sandbox
That's
all day
crazy.
long, just waiting for it to get dark.
That's so interesting.
And she goes on in the book telling about these two guys, how they served their time and got out and were citizens after that. So
Wow. If you happen to know, what were they in jail for to begin with?
I don't remember,
Okay.
but they were in Soledad, which was a bad prison at
Yeah.
that time. Soledud, something like that, in
Mhm.
Salinas.
Okay. Wow. Obviously it was a very shocking thing to you, but can you describe how you felt at the time?
At the time?
Yeah.
Oh, I was absolutely scared to death. It was just terrifying for me to go out, and the kitchen was like that in the window, and the door was at this end, and I just looked out around to where I knew the car was,
Mhm.
and it wasn't there, and I thought, well, he's parked it someplace else. So when he told me to go back out and look again, I went out and stood where the car
Yeah.
was at that time. But they were good enough to know that with the little kids and stuff, they weren't going to hurt anybody.
Right.
They took the keys and pushed it back down the alley and then
Yeah.
started it and left.
My goodness. And how long did it take for you to find out that the car ended up in Wyoming?
The sheriff called us about 30 minutes later,
Oh,
so this
okay.
happened real quick. I mean,
Yeah.
they took the car.
And then they were...
Oh, yeah, because it only takes an hour, less than an hour to get the bags.
Mhm.
And all they had to do was go back down the alley there. They were gone.
Wow.
And they had the roadblock set up at Bags, this side of Bags.
Okay.
And they went through the roadblock. And they took a road in Bags there. They were going to, instead of going on, they turned off on a road, was going to try to hide in there. And they came to the river, the street ended.
Mm.
Then they had to stop. Well, the sheriff was right behind him, old John Terrell, that caught him.
Yeah.
Caught him the second time.
Wow.
He shot a bullet over their head, and they stopped.
Mm. Wow.
And he was, see, Bill Terrell was the sheriff in Craig after George Krieger,
Okay.
and Bill Terrell was half-brother to Barbara Baker's first husband.
Oh, okay.
She was a Terrell.
That's right. Okay. Wow.
So she knew John Terrell and Bill Terrell and all of them, so.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow. We've heard stories, but that one's like kind of
Yeah, that was one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing, Don will probably tell your husband about it, but he worked for Coors at the time, and the Coors warehouse was down on 4th Street. And there was a little house next to it, a little shacky house. And Bill Terrell called Don one day, and he said, he called me and said, I want you to come up to jail. I got to show you something. So I told Don, go up to jail, and Bill Terrell's got a picture to show you. He said, do you know this guy? And he said, yeah, I think he lives in that little house next to the warehouse. And he said, strutted a gun across the desk to him. He said, we're going to go get him. He's wanted. He's paid for.
Oh, jeez.
So we go down, they go down, just the two of them, and Bill said, you go in the back door, I'll go in the front. You go in the front door, I'll go in the back door. Well, he wasn't home.
Oh.
And he said, well, wonder where he'd be. And Don said, well, he's probably down to Mather's Bar, paying pool, because that's what he does. And nobody knew that he was a fugitive at all. So he said, okay, Bill said, you go in and sit down at the bar, and I'll come in the front door. If you see him, you nod to me where he is. Well, sure enough, he was playing pool. And so Don sat down there at the bar, and Bill walks in the front door, and he went, so he walked up to the guy, Bill did, and put his gun to his head, and he said, put your hands down, put your hands behind your back, or I'll shoot, because you're paid for.
Oh, my goodness.
And Don was so scared. And he had that gun in his hand. He gave it to Bill when they walked out of Mather's Bar. He said, here. He came home and told me about it and was still shaking.
Oh, my goodness.
So that was another little story.
Yeah. Wow. You have really good stories. Do you have any other that you'd like to share?
Oh, nothing really particular that I can think of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess just to end it then, what what do you think about the state of Craig today? And
Oh, I think it's wonderful. I think it's the carving thing that they do in the park, and I think the things that they made a park here. There were buildings there, they're gone now. I think that's wonderful. They keep it up. It looks beautiful. The city and beautification committees do a great job. Adding on to the schools has been super.
Yeah.
They have good teachers here. Like I say, I could come back and live in Craig.
Right.
It's different. It looks different. It feels different. But it's still a good place. Good place. Don't have too many people left anymore that I know. I have one cousin that lives here. No, one cousin's daughter that lives here. But other than and I've got a cousin. Yeah, I've got a cousin who lives north of Craig too. Forgot about her. But everybody else is gone.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was wonderful.